Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to Illinois Stories. I'm Mark McDonald near Tallulah in front of, as you can tell, a big old barn. Now, there was a day when big old barns like this, either they're left to fall in, or maybe the owner would burn them down because they didn't want to spend the money to tear them down. But now there's a local company in Springfield that finds uses for this old barn material. Not only do they find uses for it, but they make very imaginative furniture out of it. And so let's go meet Brian Fries here, who's with Sangamon Reclaimed. Brian, it's terrific what you guys have found a niche to do, and you're a barn enthusiast yourself, so
Absolutely.
You love getting into these old barns and learning more about them. And not only do you take them off the landscape in a safe way to get the materials out, but you use them for building materials.
Yes, we do.
It's a neat idea.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I grew up on grew up on a farm in southern Missouri, and kind of always had a niche for barns, and a fascination for them. Yeah. And kind of the opportunity presented itself to tear down a local barn, and it's been just an incredible adventure. The business has taken off. We were able to reuse all this material that, like you said, would otherwise go, be burnt, buried, fall in. You see barns all over the country that are falling in because there's not a use for these old hay barns anymore, because so much of our agriculture's moved to, crops and farming, and these old livestock barns like this one just don't have a use anymore. So these farmers are replacing them with machine sheds and things like that. Yeah. So we're able to come in and dismantle them, salvage all of this old growth lumber that is completely different than the lumber you buy today. This barn, for instance, is over 150 years old. The material, the trees that it would have taken to make this type of material were 200 or 300 years old at the time. Yeah. So the old heart pine, and actually this barn in particular is a lot of hickory and a lot of red oak.
These were mature trees when the first pioneers came here in the 1830s. Exactly. These were mature trees, right? And
this barn was believed to be built in 1865, around there. The homestead was built in 1861, and this was built shortly thereafter. So, in the Civil War, this barn was being erected, and the trees would have been, like I said, 200 years old. Yeah.
And this is a big barn. This is the biggest barn you've ever undertaken to pull down.
This barn is about 120 by 80, and your average barns are 30 by 40, so quite a bit smaller. But this barn is just really unique in the way that it was constructed. They had a large livestock operation here, and what they did is, this is what's called a bank barn. It's built into the side of a hill. So as you can see from the first floor here, the livestock could get in and out of the weather.
Right.
Now on the second floor, there's access from either end.
You could pull your wagons right up in.
You pull your wagons right up in. You would dump your grain, and there were actually grain bins built into it. So it's kind of a corn crib on the first level. And as you'll see up there in the very top, there's a grain elevator that would take that grain, and that chute would drop it into whatever bin.
There's still some hay up there.
Yep. So then that's where you get to the third floor. It was the hayloft. So they incorporated everything they needed to do on this farm in this barn. Yeah. And that's why they built it first right after the homestead. Yeah. And it's just a really neat barn, and they were able to retrofit it after the fact for grain trucks. Once they started having trucks as opposed to wagons, the weight obviously was a lot more. And you'll see underneath where they've added floor joists. So instead of every 2 feet, there's maybe every 12 to 18 inches. So.
Well, we're going to tour that barn. During this program, we're going to get a chance to, we're going to look through this barn a little bit. We're going to go to your shop and find out what you guys do with the materials that you pull out of here. And we're also going to go to your customers, because you built an addition, you built a room into their home, didn't you, with this old farm?
We did. Terry Grigsby with Keystone Custom Built Homes, he came to me with this vision to do a cabin in his basement. He's a real antique enthusiast.
A cabin.
Yeah. So a real antique enthusiast and loves kind of that type of rustic stuff. And he came to me with this vision, and we did it. We worked with them, obviously him being the home builder, but we worked with them, and we were able to provide them with just an incredible, man cave type space. That's just one of a kind. I mean, you're not going to see one anywhere else.
Okay. Well, first let's take a walk through the barn.
Great.
Okay. Well, it is solid, isn't it?
It is.
You checked it out from the bottom, and you know that these floor joists are solid from the bottom, so we're not going to fall through here, right?
Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about. This is an interesting thing. You said this barn was built during the Civil War.
It was.
And at the time, before it was built, the fella that built it, his family arrived here in the 1830s.
Yep.
And they were able to buy this property for a ridiculously low amount of money, weren't they?
Yeah, the property deed that we were able to find through the current property owner, so the 40 acres were built, or excuse me, the 40 acres were purchased for $200 in 1835. Wow. And the farmstead, they bought an additional 40 acres in 1849, I believe, for $80. So $2 an acre.
That's great. Now this is, as we look at this, you can see how this is constructed. These were the rooms that you were talking about, and we're above the livestock area now, right? So what were these rooms used for?
These rooms were grain storage, and they actually had holes underneath. They had a little chute at the bottom where you could pull a lever, and it would drop grain, use gravity to drop grain directly below into the trough. Okay. And that's how they would feed their animals.
And now out in the field that we're looking at out here, out in the field, you can see that you have a large part of this barn already dismantled, and you stack it up out there in a particular way, don't you?
Absolutely. It takes a lot of time to prep this material. Between denailing it, cutting off any rotted areas, and just palletizing it for shipment. That's where the majority of the time comes from dismantling the barn, is prepping the material for future use. Yeah.
And your guys, now this is interesting, you're a firefighter.
Yes, sir.
And the guys that work for you, are they all firefighters?
All but one.
All but one.
We've got 4 firefighters, and between the 5 of us, we've got 4 of the branches of the military covered as well.
So you guys are used to using ladders, used to being on buildings, so you got your safety issues covered, don't you?
We do. Being a firefighter, or all of us being firefighters, has given us a really good knowledge base for building construction, for working off of ladders, for being tied off in roofing harnesses and things like that. So the safety aspect, it really is a good knowledge base. There's still a learning curve that we've obviously developed over time, but it really did help us to understand the way the building's constructed, to recognize signs of building collapse, deterioration, things like that are obviously very important when it comes to the safety of dismantling these barns.
You know what to avoid, Okay, now I promised the audience that we're going to see this room that you built onto the Sherman house. Okay, we're going to go there next, and then we're going to go to your shop, and we're going to see how you guys do some of this, all right?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, Terry Grigsby, you build homes.
Yes.
You build homes for other people. You build your own homes as well.
Yes.
But then when you heard about what Brian was doing with the barnwood, you've always kind of liked the rustic flavor, right?
Yeah.
When you heard what he was doing, you sort of said, well, that might look good in my house.
Right, right.
So this is your entertainment center, and it's a big one, and it's real country.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all old barnwood from Brian. My guys framed in the framework of it, and then Brian's guys come in and put all the finishing touches on it with the barnwood.
It's interesting how you can make, like, most entertainment centers are real modern, they're real high tech and real modern. Yeah. But you like yours kind of throwback, huh?
Real rustic.
I really like what you've done here, because you got the old outhouse doors on here.
Yeah.
And that's where all your equipment is, right? That's got access to all your equipment.
Everything for the TV, satellite, and all that.
Isn't that nifty? And then you got your corrugated barn roof up here. And over here you got another.
Just for storage.
Yeah, storage over here for DVDs and stuff.
Yep.
But this is the old, this is the real thing. This is the old barnwood.
Yes.
So it meets your needs, huh?
Yep.
Now, another thing that you have done, which I find fascinating, in the houses that you build, you always build yourself, well, I call it a man cave. You call it an animal room, right? Okay. You really went overboard this time. Because Brian had a lot of materials, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Would you take us over there?
Yeah,
because this
sure
is a
will.
hoot. This is a hoot. Now you got a big basement, so you had a big enough basement. Not only did you have room for a room, but you built on a porch. You had these big. These are big old barn timbers here too,
barn
aren't
beams.
they?
Yep. Yeah.
And then you've actually got yourself a separate room, don't you?
Yeah. The reason I call it animal rooms because I collect taxidermy animals, so. Instead of a man cave, I collect taxidermy animals, so room's got all my animals and guns.
And you don't hunt?
I don't hunt. I just collect.
And you collect guns. Do you shoot the guns?
No, not really.
You just like them, huh?
Yeah, I just like them, like the old. Most of my guns are old muzzle loaders and double barrel shotguns and stuff like that. So
this is really cool. I mean, you can tell this is the real deal. This is solid as it gets. Right. And you've put actually, I'm going to open this for you, okay? And you can lead us in there.
Alrighty. Just a 30-year collection of all my old animals and
Oh, my goodness.
I got a lot of Indian artifacts and stuff like that. And
Oh, this is
it's just
outrageous.
a
This
fun
is-
room to come and
oh, it
sit and
really
watch
is.
TV, and it's quiet and peaceful down here, and you can't hear anything and that.
And it's plenty big. I mean, you could have the whole family in here, couldn't
Oh, yeah,
you?
yeah.
Do you ever use it for that purpose? I mean, do you ever all get together
Yeah,
and watch a
whenever-
game or anything like
Whenever
that?
we have company over and stuff and that, we come down here and watch TV and stuff and that. But sometimes it's hard to get them away from the bigger TV.
It's
But
so cool. And look at the ceiling. Look at the ceiling. You got all this old corrugated.
yeah, it's all old
tin.
barn metal that Brian
Oh man.
from Sangamon Reclaimed put up, and all the wood is old barn wood from all the barns that he's taken down, different areas and stuff. But we did all the framing, framed it all in, and then Brian's guys come and put all the finishing touches on. And then it was time to start moving the animals in and getting them all in here. That's probably the biggest job of all.
Well, yeah, mounting all those guys, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Well, just transporting them and moving them.
Yeah, a moose takes up a lot of space.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, the wife always says the worst part of moving is moving Terry's room, so all the animals and stuff. So, because everything's got to be packed up and boxed up, and there's so many feathers and all that stuff that's got to you can't
I'll tell
destroy
you,
and all that. So
the barn wood is a perfect match for what you want. It really worked out.
yeah, it turned out really nice. So, but it's just so peaceful down here to sit and watch TV, and that is so quiet and comforting and that. So.
Okay, Brian, we're at Sangamon Reclaimed, right?
Yes, sir.
Or Reclaims.
Reclaimed.
Reclaimed.
Sangamon
Okay.
Reclaimed, yep.
And okay, so we've been out to the barn. That's one of what, 28 barns that
Yeah,
you have torn
that's
down?
number 28 over the last three and a half years. So.
Wow. Okay, and some of that wood gets sold. Much of it gets kept here, though, for
Yep.
these products that you're going to make here.
Yep.
We've been out to one of your sample sites where you have a very happy customer. And then when you come into the showroom here, the first thing you see are these samples on the left. And I guess if I had sort of in my mind's eye what I wanted my wall or my piece of furniture to look like, I could say, that's it. This is what I had in mind, this old oak right here. And you can document each one of these pieces, can't
Yes,
you?
we can. We keep track of not only where the wood comes from or what type of the wood it is, but also the history behind that barn. We try to dig into a little bit of county deeds, stories from the family and things like that kind of tell the story about what's the history behind all this old wood.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it than just a piece of wood. There's a story behind that barn. There's a story behind the family that lived there and that raised their family there and worked on the farm.
I'm going to put you on the spot. I really like this old oak, this old sort of reddish oak. Can you tell me where that's from?
That barn it was over on Ramsey Road. It's a Rochester address just outside of Springfield. And the family that owns it, the Shaver family, they are direct descendants of Archer Herndon, who built the barn in 1873. He built this barn, and his brother, William Herndon, if the name sounds familiar, was Lincoln's law partner.
Right.
So just really cool local history. The barn being built in 1873 was a little bit after Lincoln's time, but just a really neat local history, beautiful old barn. We've got some 6x8 rough sawn pine beams that are out of that we make fireplace mantle after fireplace mantle out of that.
Is that right?
The story behind that barn is just incredible. The lady that had the barn now, that was able to sell it to us to dismantle, her name Nancy Shaver Knoll, and she told us a story about how her mom was horned by a bull in the barnyard, and that was in I believe the 30s. And since then they never kept any livestock in there. Grandpa said no livestock after this time, and so the barn was just impeccable. I mean, it just hadn't over the last 70 years or so, 70, 80 years, there really was nothing kept in it other than hay. And so it's just an incredible old barn and a lot of neat local history behind it.
Well, you do have a lot of information. Okay, so it's not wood to you. It's actually living barns, aren't
Absolutely.
they? These are just some of the samples in your showroom. You can make these chairs out of the old barn wood. A set of chairs, two chairs. What's $275?
Yeah, for those are kind of like a lounge chair for a front porch. Yeah, we had a lady who wanted a set of them for her porch, and we just went ahead and made a second set. Most of what we make is custom. This is kind of more on the rustic end of what we make. We're moving really towards making a lot more finished product, a lot more higher end custom furniture.
You mentioned mantles. These are good examples of what you're talking about. People love this over their fireplace.
Oh,
don't they?
it looks great. And these are a few different styles of mantles we make. But these 6x8, like I said, were our most popular mantles. And with this 2x4, basically what we do is we groove out the backside of this and create a cleat. And so these mantles are all...
They hang?
Yep. So these mantles are free hanging,
Oh, okay.
and it's a self-install kit. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
So
neat. And you mentioned the Herndon barn, right? Okay, with the Rochester area, and I tell you, is this part of it here?
It is. We use this beam to when we built or when we took over the shop, we use this beam to kind of open up these two rooms here, and this it's just beautiful wood. I mean, you could see this is 150-year-old rough sawn pine, and we talked out of the barn about how old the tree would have had to been at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
So this barn being built in 1873, this is just cleaned up with a wire brush, and you can just see how beautiful and how much character is behind all this old wood.
Yeah. And moving this way here, we can see now this is a piece that's already been made, and this is ready to go out. You've varnished it, and it's going to go out, right?
It is. It was a custom order. The customer found something on Pinterest or one of those websites that she really liked and asked us if we could make it, and so we made it all entirely out of reclaimed wood. She really liked that white finish on the bottom to contrast that plank style top that we did on it.
Yeah.
And it's got room for bar stools on one side and shelves on the other. So.
You mentioned earlier when we were out in the field that not only are the folks that work with you here firefighters, they're military as well. And you all have a devotion to military men and women. And these flags that you make are very popular. And you donate some of the proceeds to those, don't you?
We do. Of the guys that work here, we have 5 employees, and 4 of us are local firemen. And also 4 of us are military veterans. So we've got the Army, Air Force, Marines, and Navy all covered.
Which one are you?
I'm Air Force.
Air Force.
I did 8 years in the Air National Guard here in Illinois. And so when I got out of the military, I was looking for a way to give back, a way to stay involved with the military and help those that have served us. And we got involved first with the Chris Kyle Memorial Benefit. He was the American sniper that they did the movie on. But Chris's life after the military was devoted to giving back to the veterans. Right. And so we partnered up with them. We were able to meet the Kyle family and present them with one of our American flags. And we also, like you were saying, we donate a portion of all the proceeds. So 10% of all of the flags that we sell go back to whatever veteran or first responder-based organization.
So these are all individual slats from old barns,
They
right?
They are. And we try to, if the material allows, we try to use the paint that was directly on the barn. Try to leave it original, give it, keep that distressed, siding look. Obviously, the blue we have to paint on, but a lot of this is directly off the barn. Like this red, for instance, all came from a barn over in Warrensburg, Illinois. It was built in 1936. They used to use it as a square dance hall. The whole hayloft was all one level, and they used it as a square dance hall. So it's kind of.
I'll bet you sell a lot of these.
We do.
Now, this big flag, what's the price tag on a big flag?
We got 3 different sizes. They range from 100, 175, and 250 for the largest one. And we also sell them in another style. We've got a Betsy Ross flag that's got the 13 stars in a circle. And we also have the thin red line and a thin blue line flag, which are to honor fallen firefighters and fallen police officers.
Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, so we're making our way through. You also have a lot of this old metal, this old barn metal, and you can cut numerals and street addresses or people's initials out of that if you want to, and you can see that's what you've done there. So that sort of dresses up your rural atmosphere as well.
Those letters are really popular. We partner with a company out of Sherman, Rich Core Designs. They cut anything out of metal. They custom did our logo out of metal, and they cut all kinds of letters. And we've had deer heads, we've had maps, a little bit of everything. Anything you can think of, they can cut it out of metal, and they've just done a really good job of adding us a different dimension to what we can offer. Not everybody walks in the door and wants to buy a kitchen table. Some people want to walk out with a letter that a $15 letter they can throw up on their fireplace mantle, things like that. So.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's go into the work area and see what you're working on now. There's a big work room there with a big saw in there, and in here you've got a piece going on. This is Justin, I guess, huh?
Yep.
Is he a firefighter?
This is Justin Stewart. He's a firefighter.
Hi, Justin.
Mine, we grew up together, and he's been around with me since one of our very first barns.
What's he doing?
Right now he's making a kitchen island, and this is a huge oversized island for a couple up in Clinton.
Wow! And this is an island?
Yeah.
This would take up my whole kitchen.
Mine too.
Oh, wow.
So what Justin's doing right now, he's filling in kind of the imperfections with wood putty, wood filler. That'll all get sanded down and varnished over. You'll never know that it's there.
Beautiful wood.
So, you know, the imperfections obviously add character to it, but there's you want a finished product. You want a, you know, a completed project that's going to really serve its use in the kitchen.
Yeah. Are people going to wood islands now more than they used to? Everything was granite, remember?
Yep.
But they're going to something like this now, huh?
They are. It's kind of it's a unique taste, but it's just beautiful. It's a great contrast with the kitchen base cabinets, and then a lot of granite or concrete countertops is a big thing.
Will this be the color of the wood, or will you?
No, it won't. It'll imitate this just a little bit. We use what's called a catalyzed lacquer on it, and it will look a lot like this. This material here is rough sawn, which means it's still got the original texture of the wood, where that one's been planed down and smoothed out. So it'll look a little different, but very similar to this.
Yeah. Well, I think for an island, you'd want it smooth.
Exactly.
Because you're moving things around on it all the time.
And Justin will he's going to cut out the hole for the kitchen sink. The sink's actually going to be in the middle of that island.
I got this. I stole this from your wall. I asked you if you knew which barn this island came from, and you said, yeah. What about this barn? This is the one, right?
This barn is the Meeker barn. It was built in, I believe, 1918 up near Mason City, Illinois. And we tore this down, I guess it was last spring, and all the material used for this kitchen island top is from that barn. They were all the floor joists from that barn.
And then if we back up just a little bit to our left, you're laying out another one of your flag projects.
We are. This is what I was talking about, the thin red line flag. And it's a little bit unique in that not only is it the neutral colors with the red line here, but also the star field is actually going to be chiseled out. We hand chisel them all out, and so it's a little bit different look and just a really unique.
It sure is unique. Okay, let's go to the warehouse, because when we look at a barn like that immense barn at Tallulah we saw today, we say all that stuff's got to go somewhere. So you need a big warehouse.
We do, and it's a constant balance of trying to maintain an inventory, but not overfill it to the gills. You know. Yeah. And we're a little bit low on inventory right now.
You won't be after that Tallulah barn.
We won't be when that's done. But we've got siding, we've got flooring. We've got 2x material that we use a lot for tabletops, beams that we use for fireplace mantles, and then we pre-palletize everything in bundles. So we sell to everything from the DIYer that wants to come in and do a small coat rack, versus the contractor that wants to come in and do an entire room. They want to do a commercial build out. They want to do a restaurant, a winery, a bar. We sell to them, or we also do commercial and residential installs, as you saw with Terry's place.
So you've got a lot of this stuff you've already sold, because you'll sell barnwood. You're a dealer too. I mean, you'll sell barnwood to somebody who wants to take a project on somewhere else. Yeah. But you do keep the really good stuff for yourself, don't you?
We do. We're a little selfish in that way. But you know, the finished product that we put out here, you know, obviously we want it to be as high end as it can be, and as quality as it can be. And so with that, you kind of sift through the barnwood whenever you're tearing down a barn like the one we are in Tallulah. You know, those floor joists are they're 2x10 hickory, and that's true 2x10. That's true dimensional lumber, not what you're going to buy at the big box store. And so we take that lumber and we plane it down, and actually we've already got a plan to make 30 tables for a winery out of that hickory, and it's just going to be just gorgeous.
Is that right? So the winery knows what they want, and you've got the order.
Exactly.
That's going to work. It's going to be just the right thing. Well, I think some of the challenge here is when you're tearing down a barn like that is, okay, what do you keep, what do you leave? But also, like, the organization of it and the stacking of it, so that you know what you got and you can work, because if you just take a bunch of junk in here and you throw it in there, I mean, nobody's going to want to do it.
And it'll be a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. As you can see, we ban and palletize all of our material now, especially when it comes from the barn. You know, when we get into smaller quantities, we'll stack it up like this. But this wood right here is from that barn in Tallulah. This is the siding off of that barn.
Oh, this is the siding from the Tallulah barn.
It is.
Okay, well, I wondered where that had gone. So you got that here already?
We did. That was the first material we bring in. But yeah, we do our best to palletize it like that. That way we can keep track of our inventory. You know, when we just did a oyster bar up in the Chicago area, and they call us. We've got a broker that we work with up there, and you know, she'll call us and say, hey, you know, my customer really likes this Cape Cod look. Yeah. So I've got to be able to tell her, yes, I have 2,000 square feet of that. Yes, we can fill your order. So that's kind of how we keep everything organized for our larger quantity items.
Yeah. Very good. Well, listen, one more thing I want to do before we close this program. I want to go and look at some of the pictures of some of the barns some of the 28 barns. Yeah. Because everyone's got a story, don't they?
They do.
Let's go.
Thanks.
Well, Brian, fortunately, you document everything. You know, when you go out to tear out a barn, you got pictures of it, and so you can tell customers that, here's the barn that the wood came from, and this is the wood we're going to use, and it brings up stories, and everything lives again, right? I mean, you're recycling and you're repurposing and reclaiming, and
And that's the part of the business that I enjoy the most. Tearing down barns is fun, but seeing it reused, seeing it given new life, hearing the stories of people who grew up on that farm, seeing that kitchen table for the first time, seeing that flag made of their barn wood, or going into a business that's got their wood on the wall or tabletops. It's just really neat.
So we talked about the Herndon barn many times here. Let's take a look at that, because we've seen the inside, we've seen the wood from it, but we haven't seen the barn itself. So this is the one that was out at Rochester.
It is. This barn was built in 1873. We talked about it. This is what it looked like from the outside when we got to it. There's actually a really cool picture from the Sangamon County Plat Book from back in, I believe, the 1930s. They had a picture of the farmstead with this barn on the plat book, so it's pretty neat.
Let's see another barn. One of your favorite, one of the ones that you really got a lot of good wood from.
Yeah, this one, this barn was really just kind of a blessing in disguise. We didn't expect to get what we got out of it. So this is what they call a corn crib. This was, instead of being designed to house livestock, it was designed to house grain. And this barn was built in 1920 up in Mason City. And there's, the people that are associated with these barns are, just incredible. The lady that lived there at the time we dismantled it, Layla Kiesling, out of Mason City, would tell us the stories of these barns. And this one, a tornado came through, and there were 8 buildings on the property. And this and the house are all that survived. And all the other sheds were destroyed. A couple of newer barns. And this thing just withstood the test of time.
Yeah.
This is a barbershop down in St. Louis called The Notch. It's in a high-end neighborhood in St. Louis. Just really neat story of how Layla's son lived in the area where this barbershop was. So we went from Mason City, Illinois to St. Louis, and 2 miles away from this barbershop was where her son lived. So he's able to walk in there all the time and tell the barber, this is from the farm I grew up on.
This farm.
And it's
in fact, I remember that piece of wood right there.
It's just really neat. It's been neat.
So, listen, thank you so much for the tour.
Thank you
this
for
has
coming.
been a real eye opener. It's a terrific thing you're doing, and not everybody wants furniture that has 300-year-old wood, or a barn that tells a story in their home. But for those who do, there's a Springfield business called Sangamon Reclaimed, and you might want to give them a call. With another Illinois story in Springfield, I'm Mark McDonald. Thanks for watching.
Illinois Stories is brought to you by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by the support of viewers like you. Thank you. For a DVD copy of the program you've just seen, send $19.95 to Network Knowledge, P.O. Box 6248, Springfield, Illinois 62708. Be sure to include the program name, subject, and when the program aired. You can also order with your credit card by calling 800-232-3605.